For Baker and the men with him, the days were filled with many new experiences. Training in the things an infantryman, any soldier, has to be able to do. They learned one of the first things a soldier on the battlefield has to know: how to locate targets quickly and identify them, however well camouflaged those targets might be. They learned the paramount lesson: how to use their weapons. Firing the rifle is one of the oldest exercises in the Army, but now the method of learning how to fire it is one of the newest training techniques. For years, soldiers learned how to shoot by firing at a fixed target a known distance away. But studies of performance in actual combat showed that a new way of learning was needed. Baker's group was among the first to learn under the new technique, which is called train fire. This technique is based on the idea that in combat, a soldier doesn't know where his target is going to be or when he'll see it. Targets pop up anywhere, and they're hard to spot. Training in this new technique goes on through the whole training cycle, on a lot of different ranges, representing all kinds of combat conditions. The soldier gets the feel of the rifle, and he develops a sharpness in spotting targets. He learns to be fast, but just as important, he learns to be alert. Baker and his fellow soldiers found that about midway in the cycle, the trainee begins to feel that he is onto the knack of a lot of things.
Well, it's still tough, but it's coming easier, and now you know you're going to make it.
But there's something even more important. Like any man in any job, the soldier begins to feel a sense of accomplishment, something close to personal pride, when he does what he has to do as well as he can. Along with his aching muscles, he is suddenly aware of newly acquired skills in things he has never done before. There's another thing, too. By this time, he has made friends, associations that are going to be important to him for a long time. There's something about being in the Army together, doing the same things together, making the same adjustments, that gives a special meaning to friendship. He gets a new perspective on the other parts of his life, too.
That's true, you do. For instance, you get a kind of thrill out of coming home in uniform on that first weekend pass at the end of 4 weeks. The folks didn't think I looked any the worse for wear. In fact, they seemed to think that Army life was agreeing with me. Mother confessed that she had been a little worried about whether I was being taken care of properly. She was kind of concerned about the sergeants at camp. Were they really as tough as everyone said? Well, I assured her that all the sergeants I knew were really sort of a motherly type. Dad was interested in exactly what kind of training we were getting. By this time, I had the training schedule down by heart, hour by hour.
One aspect of training that particularly interests parents is the training in character guidance, which soldiers get all through the cycle. The Army's position on this is simple. A man's character has already been formed, at home, at church, in school, and so forth, before he ever comes into the Army. But the Army accepts the obligation of carrying on the guidance of that character, so that the individual will keep on developing a moral and spiritual toughness that will enable him to handle whatever problems he has to confront. Both of Baker's parents were interested in what would happen when he finished basic training. His mother hoped he would go to electronics school. She thought that sounded like an excellent way for him or for anyone else to get some valuable technical training in the Army. And indeed, Mrs. Baker is right. Today's modern Army relies heavily on electronics to give it its margin of superiority over its potential enemies. And the training in electronics, which soldier technicians get, is just about the finest in the world. Baker's father also was aware of the advantages of technical training, but like many another veteran who served in World War II, he was aware, too, of the advantages of continued infantry training, which is, in a very real sense, training for manhood.